Muktagi니 Vyomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So I'll try to share the page where you can have a look at what we were discussing. There is that Viveka Chudamani. Vedanta, let me see. Okay, I have to restart it. Not a problem. Give me 1 second. I'll start that page. We were discussing, if you remember correctly, that how the Brahma Satta, the real Dharmi is Satta, which is Brahman, and Akasa is the Dharma. The Nyayakas understand it differently. What they do is they try to see Akasa as having Dharma, which is called Satta, the Samanya. That is the Nyayika version. And that is what is refuted here. And what is refuted here is very simple. What they try to explain to us here is no, it's the Brahman which is the real Dharmi, and all that we are discussing is essentially a superimposition in the Brahman. And we mistakenly try to see that as the real truth, but that is, it's exactly inverted, and therefore there is a proper advice that what is the page number? I'm getting a little confused. Give me 1 second, please. It is 91. Okay. Yeah, so now let me share. Okay. Now, if you look at this, the sloka that we had finished yesterday, which is the verse number 76, where we completed it, that the Akasha Tattva, generally in our everyday experience, we consider this to be real. Akasha is the first step in the process of creation. It appears as real. Truth of the matter is, the Brahman is real. These are intermediate realities. These are phenomenal truths. Phenomenally fine, but ultimately not true. And that is what was driven home yesterday in the long discussion that we had. And then there was a bit of how do you mention what is the benefit of this kind of vichara? It was mentioned that when a person successfully understands that real satta dharma, one, is actually Brahman, and Akasha is not a dharmi, it's not something which has attributes, but in itself it's a superimposition, it's an attribute which is kind of appended to the Brahman. It's an appearance, it's a projection of that Brahman. That is what we understood yesterday. What happens when you have this jnana, that what is not visible is the real, what is visible is unreal, it's just a phenomenal appearance. When this kind of an understanding is firmly established on us, the verse number 86 mentioned, Vayam prabudhayam viyat satyatvavadinam tanamatra vodayuktam cha društva vishmayate buddha. The guy who is wise enough is a little surprised when he sees that how a person who is confusing an attribute as the one which is having attributes, which has a derivative existence, is given the luxury, the privilege of being paramarthika satya. Fundamentally, it exists. No, that's not real. Akasa is not fundamentally real. It's essentially derived from the ultimate truth called Brahman. When a person understands it, he has a sense of wonder. How can a person not understand the secret which is so well explained in the Upanishads, and then fall for the temptation to believe in the phenomenal reality, series of pictures and appearances, however convincing they may appear or attractive they may be. On a film screen, you may see dance numbers and fights and some sports events and all that on the TV screen. But the reality is that it's a, some kind of a metallic substance or a LED screen, which is the reality. These pictures are just emerging on it. These are projected on the screen. What is real is the TV. These pictures are not real. The dance and the fights and the cricket match, the tigers, the wildlife, all that you watch on the TV screen are appearances. What is the real, real thing over there is the TV screen. Similarly, the Brahman, which is the foundation of all that appears as real, is in fact real with a capital R, and all that we see, believe, engage with are only a series of appearances. Now, yesterday, towards the end of it, we had a question answer session, which wasn't very well captured in the YouTube version. The question was like this: all this discussion about Brahman, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, all that is happening at a level where there is still Bheda Buddhi. Otherwise, how do you do Vichara? So, there is a Brahman, we must understand it, we must read Shastras. These are in the realm of dualities, correct or false. And then suddenly what happens? There is moksha or liberation, or there is atmajnana, where all the dualities will vanish. And all the tricks, all the tools, all the experiences that we consider valid, that we use as examples, they become irrelevant there. And when we are doing all the tools and techniques we are employing for having that Swarupa Jnana, are actually not helping in getting Atmajnana. Why? Because Atmajnana is not a product. Atmajnana is Swata Siddha. It's the reality, it's the truth. And then why do you need to do so much of studies and so much of, because all these philosophical questions that one has to deal with, we break our head over all these difficult issues. Yeah, this is how we remove obstructions to a correct understanding of who we are. These are the dirty game of getting rid of old files, which are kind of lying over our table, and they are hiding the real document you are looking for, the real document of who we are. That paper is lying beneath. There's so many papers which are useless, and we're removing them to find that Atmajnana. That is how the discussion on the Akasa is completed. The purpose of discussing Mahabhuta Viveka, discussing Akasa as not fundamentally real, without any Swatantara Dharma, but being an appendage, being a superimposition on the Brahman, was a technique that we are going to employ also to understand that air, fire, water, and earth are similarly phenomenal realities, not fundamentally real, all emanating as projections out of the Brahman. And these are projections only. That is the way we're going to move forward. Vayur mithyatva vicharaha. So after Akasha comes what? Akasad Vayuhu. Vayu comes after Akasha. So we will see, is it real? Panchadashi says, no, that's also not real. It's mithya, means neither fully real nor fully unreal. It's anirvachaniya. It's mithya. Evam Vyat Sator, and thus when you discuss Vyat and Sat is Brahman, Sator, Vivechana, Saranim, Anushtya Eva, and then you follow that path, the way you distinguish Akasa from Brahman in the same method, employing the same method. Bhutantara Vivechanapi Kartavya iti aha. You should also try to have some vichara, some discussion, analytically distinguish all other layers of material reality from the Brahman, and none of them are fundamentally real. Evamiti. Verse number 77. Evam akasa mithyatve sat satyatve cha vasite न्यायेनानेन वायाब्देः व्यब्देः सद्वस्तु प्रविविच्यताम् एवं आकाश मिथ्यात्वे. Now first you establish Sati Saptami, you establish that Akasa is also not fundamentally real. Sat Satyatve cha vasite. Sat is what is associated with the Brahman. Sat is the Brahman, the fundamental reality. And Satyatve, and that alone. Sataha Satyatve. Sat alone is real. Brahman alone is real. Cha vasite. You just don't understand it once. But vasite means it is already established. It's firmly established in you as a sanskara. Nyayena anena nyayena Vayuvadehe, Vayu Adehe. So Vayu, starting with Vayu, we'll also discuss about water, fire, and earth. Vayvadehe Sadvastu Pravi Vichyatam. You do similarly. You have Vivechana extremely well, deeply, with great introspection and analysis. You should also try to make sense of the apparent realities called air, fire, water, and earth. All levels of material realities which are accepted as fundamentally real are not. You will have the same method of anavritti and avavritti. Anavritti is what, as I had explained to you, concomitant presence. It's all the time there. Whatever you saying, X is, Y is, Z is, whenever you mention something is, that isness is a constant. That is anavritti, anavritta. And what is vavrita? You say this is a pen, but when you're saying this is a pencil, pen isn't there. When you're saying this is a pen, then you're saying this is a pencil. That is there in both of them. That is anivritta. And that is why it's nitya. That is what represents the Brahman. Therefore, he's saying, anena nyayena vaivadehe vayu adehe vaivadehe sadvastu pravivicyatam. You should do vivechana. Sugama pada yojana. This is very easy to understand, he's saying. Karana akasasya asatve. When you successfully analyze and find that akasha is the cause of air, akasat vayuhu. So, tasmat vaitasmat akasha sambhutaha. From that Brahman, akasa was born. From the Brahman. Akasat vayuhu. Out of akasha, vayu was born. Tat karyabhutasya vayvadehe sarvasya asatyatvam. All these panchabhutas at all layers, asatyatvam sarvatra anusyutatvad sataha satyatvam. However, the sat, the Brahman, is sarvatra there. You say this is air, this is water, this is fire, this is sky, this is earth. Isness is a constant in all of these five. And sarvatra anusvitatvat sataha satyatvam cha sugamam bhavati iti sheshaha. So there is no further debate on it. He's saying it's very, very easy for us to prove because it's very obvious. Because wherever you go, whatever you are discussing, all the time the sat is anavritta, right? Vyavriti is that it's not there. Concomitant presence is not there. Apitu, there is absence, right? That is what is explaining in so many words. So it's very simple. When you do that vichara, akasa vivechanasya parinamam samanikritya, when you have a simple understanding of it, annisham bhutana vivechanamargam dasayati. There's so many commentaries. One of them, it says that you're looking at all the bhutas, you can also do a proper vichara. How do you do it? When in your antakarana, you are able to establish very firmly Akasa Mithyatvam. Akasa is not fundamentally true, it's just an appearance. Then, Sadvastunaha Satyatvam Dridhataya Vasitam Bhavati. That means, that Sadvastu, that Brahman alone is real. That is firmly established in us. Vasitam Bhavati. What does that mean? That means it's not that you only have an intellectual cognition of it. Only intellectually you understood that Brahman is real, rest of it is unreal. You sat in the class of a professor of Vedanta, he said this, we did this on satsang, and then, no, that's not what helps. When you firmly internalize that truth, that appears as a vasana, it matures as a vasana, as a powerful sanskara, then what happens? Then that logic naturally flows. Like when we learn how to drive a vehicle, whether it's a car or a bike or anything, in the initial period, we are overconscious and a little anxious, isn't it? That we may make a mistake. And then after a couple of years, you are driving, you are talking, you are thinking about something, and yet you don't make any accidents. Largely you are on track because everything gets mechanically coordinated. Similarly, when this Brahmagyana, that Brahman is Sat, is fundamentally real, all other things are projections, it's internalized, then what happens? You try to logically, in a very simple way, do anuvritti and vyavritti. Brahman alone is anuvritta, sarvatra anushyuta, anuvritta. What about others? They are there in a particular domain. Like we discussed earlier, that in Jagrata, Swapna, and Shushupti, sarvatra anushyuta is that sambit, that Chaitanya. Jagrata Avastha, you also have the activities associated with the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas. But in case of Swapnavastha, the jnanendriyas and karmendriyas are not active. What is active? The mind is active. Manas is, Antagana is active. So you imagine a lot of things. If you go to the Karanavastha, Susupti Kala, there the mind is also asleep. Chaitanya is there, yes. If it's not there, how do you remember that you had a wonderful sleep? Sukham aswapsam na kinchit avedisham. How do you say that? So you had some experience. That is how the Shakshi Chaitanya is present during all the three states. It's always there, right? Therefore, it's saying it's always there. And that is the real thing. Similarly, the Brahman, the Sadvastu, is Sarvatra Anishyuta Anuvritta. Therefore, doing Anuvritti Vyabriti, you say all others are temporarily limited to a certain domain with a few qualities. They appear and disappear. The Brahman, apitu, everywhere there. When you do it, then you can also analyze the Sad and Asad Rupata of what? Brahman and others. Brahman is Sad. Everything else is Asad, Anirvachaniya. So Tasya Akasasya Asatve Siddhi. How? Because from Vayu, from Sad or Brahman comes Akasha. And we have already proved Akasa is not fundamentally real, means Asad. Then from Akasa comes Vayu. When the father has been proved to be Asad, son will also become Asad. Then Vayu comes fire, that is also Asad. Why? Akasa is Asad. Vayu is Asad. Fire is also Asad. From out of this comes water, and water is also Asad. Because it's out of Vayu. Vayu is from Akasha. Akasha is Asad. All of it. And finally, ultimately, when earth is Asad. These whole mountains and waters and all that we see are not fundamentally real. Because the first level of manifestation, the sky, is also proved to be having no independent reality of its own, but a derived appearance from the Brahman. Done. So there is no swatantra satyatva, apitu derived satyatva. Is not independently real or unreal. Ultimately, these are the products of the Brahman. Done. So let's go to the next sloka. What is he saying? He's saying, now there is a bit of doubt in the minds of a average good student. A lot of questions in the minds. You must be all experiencing this kind of question. Students, once in a while they come to the class, and sometimes you enjoy discussions with them. Sometimes you get a little put off because they ask a lot of questions. What kind of question is there in the mind of this guy? He's saying, Yadyapi Vayuhu San Tejaha Sad Ityadi Pratitivalad Vaivadayo Dharminaha Sattaja Tesam Dharma Iti Ayati. He said, you are saying Brahman is Sat. Okay, postpone that issue. I don't want to have a fight with you on that. But Akasa, I can see with my eyes, there is Indriya Gocharatva. They are accessible with my Jnanindriyas. I can see the sky and I can feel the sky because sound is coming. I'll do Anumana and Vayu through Sparshendriya, Tvacha, Tvagendriya. I can feel there is air. Vayu is sun, Teja sun, and fire I can see through my eyes. Ityadi Pratitivalad, because I have this Indriya Gocharatva there. Vaivyadayo Dayaha Dharminaha Satta Cha Teshang Dharma iti Ayati. They exist, and this easiness is a quality which is there in them. They are. This easiness is a quality they have. That also can be proved. Tathaja dharmi bhutanam vaivyadinam nirakarane dharma bhutasya satopi nirakritihi prasajyeta. This is the Nyaya student who is raising this question. Therefore, these Panchabhutas are dharmis. That was his first point. And which is the dharma? Satta is the dharma. Vaivadinam, nirakarane. And then you are saying they are false, they're not fundamentally real. If dharmi is there, then we can discuss about dharma. This is twist by the Nyaya student. So if I have a hand, you can say it has brown color. If there is no hand, what brown color? Where does it exist? Because any guna is dravyasrita. Dravyasrayatvam gunatvam. If without dravya, guna will exist where? Where does the quality exist? In some kind of an object. Now, he's saying he's trying to disprove the fact that Sat can exist. How he proves it? By inverting the whole and going back to square one. He's saying if you say Vayu doesn't exist, Akasa doesn't exist, fire doesn't exist, but they are available to my senses, my Jnanindriyas. And if you disprove their existence because they are dharmis, the satta, which is one of their qualities, will become infructuous, cannot be accepted. That is how then the satta dharma itself becomes non-existent. Satopi nirakritihi prasadyeta. Because he has not understood what is said by the Vedantin, he is raising this kind of a foolish question. Kincha vaivadishu sattvam anupapannam. If you talk like this, if Vayu becomes superfluous, Vayu doesn't become fundamentally real. This Parshavatvam dharma, which is associated with the Vayu, it will not exist. But what is ultimately one basic quality Samanya dharma in Vayu is Satta dharma. That also will not be there. Asad bhuta akasa karyatvena akasa iva karanavasa satta asankramasya durvachatvat. He's saying, look, first thing, all these are products or consequences of Akasha. Akasha is the first product of Brahman, right? The first product is false. Product of anything which is born out of anything false is also false, isn't it? So everything is false. Then one quality you are attributing to them, actually he attributes it because he's a Nyaya student. Satta dharma, it will not exist. So they will all become completely superfluous. Ityasakam parihartum aha saditi. The teacher recognizes this question and therefore on his own he comes up with a couplet to dispel this kind of doubt in the minds of the student. Sadvastvanyekadesastha maya tatrekadesagam Biyap tatrapyekadesha gatavayuh prakalpitaha. He's saying, no, that is not real. That is not the way to look at it. Sadvastuni ekadesastha maya. That's what I told you. The maya is not covering up whole of Brahman. If it does, what is the problem? You will never have Suddha Brahma Jnana. Maya is covering. So how will you have Suddha Brahma Jnana? You will have only Maya Upahita Brahma Jnana. That means liberation not possible because you are still stuck with the impurity of Maya. Then you are not having a real direct sakshatkar of Brahman. It's still mediated reality. It's avidya, it's Maya Upahita Chaitanya. That's what is Ishvara for the Advaita Vedanta. So you can never reach towards the Suddha Brahman, and Sakshatkar of the Suddha Brahman is the only condition for ultimate liberation. So there'll be no mukti, no moksha, no atmijnana. Therefore, Vedantin say that Maya covers Brahman, not the whole of it, only one fourth of it. Three-fourths of it remains pure, remains beyond the reach of Maya. Actually, there's nothing like it. We have already discussed it. This alone is mentioned in order to explain that the Maya has very little effect on the purity of the Brahman. It remains pure, and the Maya is basically adhyasa, a superimposition. It's like when you look at the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, most often the whole of the sun is not covered. Even if it is covered, there'll be a diamond ring kind of thing. Middle part kind of looks dark. Earth is too small, right, to cover up the whole of sun, isn't it? It's because of distance that it has this illusory impact on the sun that it gets eclipsed. Similarly, the Brahman is not fully eclipsed by Maya, only partly, a tiny part of it is covered. Therefore, he sings Sadvastuni Ekadesasta Maya Tatra Ekadesagam. It covers only. Similarly, the Akasa is a Maya is a tiny part of Brahman. Maya creates Akasha. So again, a tiny part of Maya will be what accounts for the creation of Akasha. And then only one part of Akasha is covered by Vayu, and one part of Vayu is covered by down. This is the logic of one part comes into picture. So, biyat tatrapi ekadesa gato vayuhu. Even in the akasha, only tiny. If you look at the whole universe or the cosmos, in what part do you have air? Look at this guy. He was not a scientist. He was a philosopher. But what he says is strikingly real. You have the atmosphere. You have air. Do you have air in space? No, you don't have. Was he a scientist? He wrote it 400 years back, but he knew this intuitively based on whatever insights we have in the Upanishads. Biyat tatrapi ekadesagato vayuhu prakalapitaha. And this is just imagine, fundamentally not real. It's projected. That is it's explaining in the commentary. Sadvastuni maya ekadesasta. The Kalyana Piyusha, if you look at it. Sadvastuni in Sadvastu maya ekadesasta. Tatra viyat mayayam ekadesagam. And then Akasa is one part of that Maya Sakti. Mayangsha Matra is Akasha. It's only a tiny part of Maya that we describe as Akasha. Tasya avidya vikara swarupatvat. Why do you say it's one part of Maya? Only a tiny part of Maya? Because these are avidya vikara swarupatvat. This vikarakal Akasa is not real. Like the stick looks bent when you immerse that stick in water, that part looks bent. It's not real. Avidya vikara swarupada, that vikara of bent nature that you see in the stick is because of refraction. That is kalpita, rupatva. Tatra akasepi ekadesagata eka angsha bhuto vayuhu prakalpita. And what about air? That also covers only one tiny part of the whole akasa, sky, or space. Is imagine. It's also projected. Atra kramena uttarottarasya purva purveka desagatatva uktya. So the product will cover only one part of, like the baby lives in one part of the mother, isn't it? Baby comes out of the mother, lives in the uterus. Maybe how much space in the female body the uterus covers when she's pregnant. Let's say is about 5, 10%, 15%, maybe 20% if she looks, she looks real expanded during pregnancy, maybe 10%, 6%, whatever. this child is born. Out of that, 6% or 10%. Similarly, the Akasa 10% is Vayu, and Vayu's 10% is fire. And then fire 10% will be water, and water's 10% is earth. Yatha Maya Ekadesagatam Vyan Maya Dwara Asat Karanakam Bhavati Tatha Vyat Ekadesagato Vayurapi Tadwara Tat Karanako Bhavati. How do you prove that Vayu is also Asat, not fundamentally real? You saying, look, Akasa, by being one tiny part of the cosmos or the Brahman, is false, not real. Similarly, Vayu is also maybe 1/10 of Akasa, therefore that's also false. Is Asat Karanako, is not real. Akasa itself is Asat, is not fundamentally real. Similarly, because it's born out of Asat, it's also Asat product, it's a child of Asat. Atra sambandhe sakhyatva asakhyatva bhyam vivikhyate. There is a sakhyat sambandha and asakhyat sambandha. Everything born out of Brahman. Sakya sambandha is Brahman. First Brahman, then Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha. He creates Panchatanamatra, Akas, etc. Isn't it? There is a paramparika sambandha between Ishvara and Akasha, Ishvara and Jala. In between there is Hiranyagarbha, and he himself is given tanmatras out of which he manifests the Sthulakasha. Out of Sthulakasha comes the Panchikarana happens. Then you have Vayu, and then you have Jala and Agni and Jala and Prithvi Tattvas. Vyat Maya Dwara Asat Karanakam Bhavati Tatha Vyat Ekadesagato Vayurapi Tadvara Tat Karanako Bhavati Atra Sambandhe Sakhyatva Bhyam Vivakhyate. So you have direct and indirect relationship between these layers of reality and Brahman. Evam cha sat karyatvo avisesad vaivadinam api sattva sambandho nirvadha. What is the nirvadha? No, it's nirvadha. Let me check. Just give me one. What is the? This looks a little confusing. Yes, sadvastu mayakar sadrupa bheda. अत समाधि साख्यात्व साख्यात्वं विविक्यते एवं च सत्कार्यत्वा विशेषाद् वैविद्वानम् अपि सत्व संबंधो nirvadha eva. So I think this one would be, there's some printing error, nirvadha eva. Kingcha loke dharma dharmi bhavasya. In common parlance, when we are dealing with whatever, everyday life, Kingcha loke dharma dharmi bhava. What is dharma? Is actually the Brahman is dharmi. Dharma is akasa, and all these panchabhutas are attributions. But during common parlance, we see akasa, vayu, they are the dharmis, they have dharma, satta, dharma, bhavasya, vaiparityena, avidvat gocharatvepi, even though they are understood in an inverted manner. Adhikadesha vrittihi dharmi. This we have already discussed. Whatever has adhikadesha vritti, that becomes dharmi. A person has mustache. Mustache is one dharma, or beard was dharma of a man. But the male body is much bigger than the part which is covered with body hair, isn't it? What is dharma? This kesa yuktatvam, that is in some part. Dharmi is the human body. Similarly, the Brahman is adhika desha vrittihi. Therefore, that is dharmi. What is dharma? Akasha. Because nyuna desha vrittitva, because it covers only a tiny part of it. तद एक देश वृत्ति ही धर्म इति पूर्व उपादित नियमन अनुसारेण सतः धर्मित्वम. This we have already explained to you. Therefore, Brahman or Sat is Dharmi. Vaivadinam akasavat Sat Dharmatvam cha Siddham. So Akasa, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi, these are Sat Dharmas. That means these are attributions we superimpose on the Brahman. They are not dharmis having satta dharma. That is the simple point they're trying to make. Atra dharminaha prithakkarane dharmanam avidyamanatvam ityadikam akasavad ityadi sarvam kramena ekadesagatatva sangrahitam iti bodhyam. So he's saying what? It's very simple. So Brahman is the dharmi. All the Panchabhutas are derived realities. They don't have Saksha Samanda with Brahman because they are out of which comes Akasha, out of that Vayu, then from Vayu comes fire, from that you have water, from there you have earth. Ultimately, they are all flowing from Brahman and they are superimpositions. So the real Dharmi is Brahman. All these are attributions and these are manifestations. Surupataha, they are not Sat. Okay. Tatha eva Sadvayu Vivechana Prayojaki Bhutam Vayor Triswabhavatam Aha Sesa iti. He's going to now explain to us how Vayu has no Swatantra Dharma of his own. There is some Swadharma. These are all derived. Satta is the real thing. These are all attributes. He's explaining. Shosasparsau gatirvegaha vayu dharma ime mataha trayah swabhavaha sanamaya vyomnam yete pivayugaha. See, what are the qualities we associate with air or wind? What are they? They are like this. Shosasparsau. Whenever you want to dry up something, what do? So you want to make some idli. How do you do it? You'll soak some rice in water and clean it up, and then they advise you that you spread it on a towel or something and put it below the fan, ceiling fan. It dries up. Then you grind it and make coarse grains out of it. No, you use air to dry it up. You hang your dresses after washing them outside. So there's air or wind, it dries up. That is shosha. And sparsha, what is sparsha? You are sweating. And then air comes and touches your body, and then there is evaporation of the sweat. You feel cooler. Shosha and sparsha. Gatir vega, air moves, and it's very painful where the air is completely still. So Gatir Vegaha. So if there's a cyclonic wind because of a depression or something, what happens? Vegaha. It moves very fast. Fast motion, then motion with high speed. Vayu Dharmaha Ime Mataha. These are all known as qualities of air. Trayaha Swabhavaha Sanamaya Vyomnam Yetepi Vayugaha. But he's saying, don't forget that Vayu is the child of Akasha. Akasa is the child of Maya. Maya is the child of Brahman. So it will also have the qualities of these three. What? Which one? Vayu. And what are these qualities? He will explain. Shosa sparsho gatirvegaha vayu dharma ime mataha trayah swabhavaha sanamaya vyomnam yete pivayugaha. And these are explained very beautifully in these verses. Shosa sparsho shesho drabya. What is shosa? Drabyatva haranam. Something is there. Drabatva, not drabyatva. Drabatva, that moisture, right? Something is moist, exposed to air. It dries up. Drabatva haranam. It takes away the moisture out of which because of the wind or the air. Sosa and sparsha is that touch. Sosa sparsho gatir vegasya, motion and speed. Ime gunaha vayu dharmaha. These are the qualities of Vayu. Vayoho suya dharma iti mataha. But by mistake, we think these are independent qualities of Vayu. Tadagatan karana dharma naha saditi. But in that particular Vayu, there are a few qualities which are inherited through the DNA because it's born out of Brahman, then at a level from Maya, and then Akasha, then Vayu. And what are these? What are these three causes? Sanamaya Vyoma. Sun is Brahman, Maya is Maya, and then Vyoman. Vyoman is this Akasha. Akasha is the father of air. So Sun Maya Vyomna, of these three, Trayaha Ye Vidyante Swabhava Te Api Vayugaha. These are the qualities which are there, and these are also attributed to Vayu. And what are these? Somebody will ask, isn't it? What are these? Before that, we have already discussed that Brahman alone is the dharmi, and these Akasa, Vayu, and Teja, and Jala, and Prithvi, these are Sadharmas. That means these are attributes associated with Brahman, directly or indirectly. And therefore, they are all mithya. They are not directly real. Okay. And here he is now explaining Vayu Swarupataha doesn't exist on its own. It exists because of Akasha. Akasha exists because of Brahman. Out of Brahman, Akasha is derived. Out of Akasha, you have Vayu, or the air is derived. Okay. So there are three causes above Vayu. First Brahman, then Maya Sakti, and then you have the Akasha. Okay. So what are these three causes? Sat, Maya, and Akasha. Tesham, of these, it will carry the Karana attributes, the causal entities, qualities will be reflected in the effect, and its qualities are attributes. So the anuvartana of the Karana gunas will be there in the Karya. That is the point that's being made. What is then these three qualities? Somebody will ask us, and we have to discuss it. So, what is the dharma of Sat or Brahman? Satta, isness. And what is the dharma of Maya? So, it's imaginary, kalpanatmaka, vikara janaka sakti, agadana gadana patiyasi, what is impossible it can create. So, kalpanatmaka is imaginary, it's projected reality. The Jadugar, Thakur used to say, is real. Jadu is unreal. So, kalpanatmaka vikara janaka sakti, the vikara that we see, which is created by Maya, is imaginary. It's not real. It's not real transformation. It's vivarta parinamavada. So that is vikara janaka sakti. And what is the dharma now of akasha vyomnaha? What is the dharma? Avakasa dratritvam, room giving capacity, isn't it? A can move to B in space without any obstruction. That is the quality of akasha. And these dharmas, swabhavaha, then you will see these qualities being anuvritta also in vayu or in air. Therefore, these qualities will be there, three swabhavaka, vayu, three swabhavaka bhavati. The vayu will have also these additional qualities inherited from the causal entities, out of which, through a process of manifestation, this has appeared. And the qualities. Therefore, whatever we associate with Vayu is not Swatantra. These are derived. Okay. Therefore, it's not different from the Karana Dharmas. That is what he's saying. So, whatever it is, Sataha Anusyuta Sattavritya. Vayu is there. Vayu Sattavan, somebody says. Isness is there in Vayu. That Satta Vatvam, kahan se aaya? Where from it comes? From Brahman. From Brahman, Sattvattva comes to Akasha. From there, it percolates down to air. From air, it percolates down to fire. From there, it percolates down to water and then to earth. That Sattvattva, that existence, is actually purely independently associated with Brahman, from which it flows downwards. And what is this? Maya upahita vikaratvena, vyomodhisthita desatmakatvena cha pratiyate. So if you look at Vayu, first thing, this vikara is Maya upahita. It's a magical creation of, it's a projection because of that Maya. And then the next thing, you see this wind is moving from northerly direction. There is a westerly disturbance. northwesterly disturbance, as a result of which there's going to be heavy snowfall, is the prediction for Jammu and Kashmir. So we are associating Vayu with direction. Direction associated with what? Disha, with Akash. These qualities are flowing downwards. This much is being conveyed, and we are going forward. Vayu tad dharma sattvam pratipadayati vayuriti. And these dharmas, which are not independent but attributed, we are going to discuss them. How this sadbhava comes? It comes like how Vayur asti iti sadbhavaha. You see, there's lovely wind, there's cold breeze, there is cool air, this is winter. Vayur asti, air is there. Sadbhavaha, this sadbhava comes from Sat, the Brahman. Soto vayu prithak nistatvarupata maya swabhavo vyomago dhvanihi. Vayur astiti sadbhavaha sataha vayo prithak. When you try to distinguish vayu from sat, the way you are distinguished analytically akasa, a space from Brahman, which is Sachidananda Swarupa, same way you are able to also distinguish air as an intermediate reality as completely distinct from Brahman, which is Shuddha Satta Samparna. The moment you do it, you realize Nistatva Rupata. Vayor Nistatva Rupata Prapta Bhavati. It doesn't have it Tattva Rupata. Tat is that Brahman, isn't it? Tattva is the dharma of Tat. Tattva Rupata we can only attribute associated with Brahman. Does it have do you have it in air? No. Then what is it? Nistatva Rupa. Nistatva Rupa Vayuhu. Tasya dharma nistatva rupata. So this nistatva rupata becomes evident. No, 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 no. Yeah. Like for example, there's a guy who is driving a car and he's trying to show off in a campus, a young student, and somebody comes, he's very rich. He's got a very, very, very expensive sports bike, and the other one laughs. No, no, it's not his. Whose it is? Oh, his elder brother, his cousin brother. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's got a lot of vehicles. This guy must have tested him and then must have borrowed this vehicle. I know the number. This vehicle doesn't belong to this guy. Right? Similarly, the satta that we attribute to Vayu becomes evident that it doesn't actually belong to Vayu. It belongs to Brahman. Nistatva rupata. And then maya swabhavaha. Right? And then it has us the swabhava of maya. It's all imagined. And vyomagaha dhvanihi. And then, wind also carries sound. But this sound carrying capacity of air or wind comes out of the sound carrying capacity of sky. That quality has percolated down to Vayu. It's not its own capacity. Sparshavatva is the swabhava of Vayu. These qualities have percolated down from above. Vayur asti iti sadbhavaha sattarupaha saddharmaha. When we say this sattarupa saddharma is actually of Brahman. Dharminaha sato vayu prithakkriti sati siddha nistatvarupata. Once you are able to analytically distinguish the intermediate reality called air from Brahman, then nistatvarupata, vayor nistatvarupata siddha bhavati. You are easily logically established that it doesn't have any independent existence of its own. Mithya swarupatvam maya swabhava. What is maya swabhava? Maya means neither sat nor asat. Anirvachaniyatva. That mithya swarupatva, that also is coming from maya. And that also applies to air. Dharminam andara dharma sya avidyamanatvat. Without dharmido, dharma cannot be there. Right? So dharmi has to be there for any dharma to be there. Ayang maya swabhavaha, that itself is maya. That is the quality of maya. And what is that? What is the third quality? Vyomogo dharmaha dhvanihi. Akasa has the capacity to carry sound, and the sound waves also move through wind. But they're kind of coming down from the sound carrying capacity of space. Done. We are done with the verse number 80. There are so many additional commentaries if there's anything interesting. So, what is this Prithak Karna? Dharmi is Brahman, Dharma is this Vayu, another appendage. So, you do the analytical ability to distinguish it, analytical distinction, right? So, what is the distinction? Brahman, the Akasha, and then Vayu. These are different from Brahman. You do that Vichara. Once you do it, you realize they don't have any Swarupa Dharma. They are all Mithya Swabhavavan. They are just like appearing just like that. Swatha eva siddhavati yataha dharmanam bina dharmasya avasthitireva nasambhavati. Done. Once you do it, that Akasha was imaginary. Air is also an imaginary projected reality. And the sound carrying capacity is also inherited from the Akasha. Done. Now we are graduating to the next verse. There is another, the same Nyaya student comes around and raises another question. No, no. Vaivyadishu anubrittam sannatu vyoma ityadina vaivyadishu vyoma anuvrittihi pura niraskrita aduna vyayu vyoma guna vritti kathanena vyomno anuvrittihi ukta praya virodho iti asankati satah iti. Now the student has a question. Vaivyadishu anuvrittam sannatu could be now he's saying actually it should be sadvastu. Let me check whether there's some kind of a printing error. Okay. Okay. No, there is no printing error. It's clear. It looks like there is some different. You know what he's trying to say. Nanu vaivyadishu anuvritam sat. Natu vyomo ityadina. In Vayu, what is anuvrita is the sadvastu, sat. And that is because of sandhi, the ta becomes na. Sat. Natu vyoma ityadina. When you say that actually what is anuvrita everywhere, it is that sadvastu Brahman. Akasa is not anuvrita in Vayu. Is sadvastu anuvrita in all the Panchabhutas. The Samvitar Chaitanya is anuvrita in Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Susupti Avastha. You cannot say that Swapna, the Karana Avastha, the Susupti Avastha is anuvrita in Swapna Avastha, Swapna Avastha is anuvrita in Jagrata Avastha. Do we argue like that? We don't. Sambit is anuvrita everywhere. Sakshi Chaitanya. Similarly, here, Vaivadishu anuvritam sat. Natu vyoma ityadena vaivyadishu vyomanavrittihi pura nirakrita. In Vayu, vyoma is percolating and pervading. No, no, we never said that. That has been refuted earlier. Adhuna vyayau vyomo gunanavritti kathanena. Now suddenly you're turning around and saying the quality of karana comes to karya and the sound carrying capacity of akasha is coming to Vayu. You're contradicting yourself. You had said only the Brahman is all pervading. You never said the akasha pervades Vayu, Vayu pervades fire, fire pervades water. Did you say that? No. And then why are you telling me the quality of akasha with regard to the sound carrying capacity percolates, trickles down to the level of Vayu? There is some kind of a contradiction. Vyomno anuvrittir ukta praya, it's almost like saying that the akasha is anuvritta, means pervading Vayu. Katham na virodha. How is it not contradictory? Iti asankate sataiti. He raises the question, then he would also answer it. Sato navritti sarvatra vyomno neti puriritam vyomna nuvrittiradhuna katham na vyahatam vachaha. This is a akshepa. Purva Paksha thing. Sataha anuvrittihi sarvatra is the Brahman which is all pervading. Vyamnoho na. It's not the Akasa which is pervading Vayu. You never said it. Iti pura iritam. You have said it earlier. Vyoma anivritti adhuna katham na vyahatam vachaha. Now suddenly you are saying the quality of akasha, which is sound carrying capacity, is also coming to air because it's a product of akasha. More or less, you are saying that akasha is anavritta in vayu. Why there is no parasvara virodha? Why there is no mutual contradiction? Sarvatra sataha anuvrittihi bhinne vyat sati. In that sloka you said it. Vyat and Brahman. And the sat is anuvritta everywhere. Yasati iti atra pura iritam uktam. You have already said it. Aduna, now suddenly vyoma anuvrittihi vyomno gunanavritti kathanam mukhena. Because you are saying one of the qualities of akasha is also seen in air, the sound carrying capacity, the sound wave carrying capacity. More or less, if you saying Vyayu Irita, Irita Praya, almost you are saying that Akasa is pervading air. Evam Chatava Vajaha Katham na Vyahatam. Are you not contradicting yourself? Because you have been telling us that only the Brahman is all pervading. Now you are twisting your whatever you were saying and you're saying the Akasa is all pervading. Paraswara Viruddham Navavati. Why can't you accept that there is? Then this is being refuted in the verse number 82. Samadhatte chidriti. In the verse number 82, the siddhanti, that means the conclusive proof is given. No, no, there is no mutual contradiction. You have only misunderstood us. That is what the Acharya says in the verse number 82. Chidranuvatti netiti purvoktiradhuna tviyam sabdanavrittirevokta vachaso vyahatihi kutaha. Chidranuvittihi, right? Chidra anuvrittina, ठीक है? छिद्र अनुवृत्ति नेति पूर्व उक्ति adhuna tu iyam savdan vrittihi. See, we had told you something else and you have understood something else. What is the meaning of the word chidra? Is avakasha dratitvam. It gives avakasha, room giving capacity of the akasha. Wind has it. There's strong wind. Can you move in the opposite direction? No, it's not possible. It's only space which gives you that avakasha. None of these other four panchabhutas, other four bhutas give you that capacity. Chidra anuvrittihi na iti. That chitta anuvritti doesn't happen in vayu. That we have told you. Okay? Purva uktihi. That is what was said earlier. Adhuna tu iyam. Now we are saying something else. Sabda anuvrittihi eva ukta. We are only saying one particular quality of akasha percolates down to air. The Swarupa Dharma, the Swatantra Dharma of Akasha is actually Avakasa Dratritvam. That is Dravya Vibhajaka Guna of Akasha. What is that special attribute of Akasha which makes it stand out compared to other bhutas? Avakasa Dratritvam. It is able to give you room for moving. That is the quality of Akasha. That is not there in air. What is there? Some of the quality, sound carrying capacity. That is there. The main thing is not there. Therefore, vyahati kutaha vachasa vyahati. Where is the contradiction here? Okay, we have done the basic meaning. The elaborate one we will do in our next class, which will happen again in Saturday. Let's do the Shanti mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat. So we'll meet again tomorrow. Until then, have a good time.